Deep in the Amazon, there's a stretch of forest the locals refuse to enter after dusk. Not because of predators or spirits, but because the place feels wrong in a way no one can quite explain. Sound behaves strangely here. A shout doesn't fade into the distance. It bends, curls, and returns as a faint whisper from behind. Even footsteps seem to echo from the treetops. The indigenous trackers who guide scientific teams through these regions say the forest circles your voice, as if it's testing who you are before letting you pass. For centuries, the area remained mostly untouched. Early explorers left fragmented accounts of breathing cliffs, hillsides that appeared to move when watched from the corner of the eye. A few even reported seeing distant shapes rise and fall like the chest of a sleeping giant. Most of these stories were dismissed as heat-induced hallucinations or the ramblings of exhausted travelers, but the descriptions were too consistent to fully ignore. Modern researchers didn't fare much better. Whenever survey teams tried to map this region, the readings would scramble without warning. Compasses drifted, drones lost GPS lock, and even satellite images showed blurry distortions as if the canopy itself was rippling. It was one of those rare places on the planet where technology seemed to hesitate, like the forest was deliberately blurring its own outline. But everything changed when a broken weather satellite, tumbling off course during a routine orbit adjustment, pinged the ground with a low-frequency scan. Buried inside the messy data was something no one expected, a rhythmic pulse rising from beneath a remote plateau, a beat too steady, too consistent, and far too organized to be produced by shifting Earth. At first, analysts thought it was a glitch, but when the pattern appeared again 2 days later, perfectly timed and identical in the structure, they realized something was wrong, or perhaps incredibly right. The forest hadn't been resisting their tools out of randomness. It was hiding something, and that pulse, that measured vibration rising from deep below the roots, was the first clue that the Amazon was guarding a secret far older and far more deliberate than anyone ever imagined. But what was generating a heartbeat beneath the earth? Section 2 would reveal the first hint. When the anomaly was first logged, the data landed on the desk of Dr. Alina Serrano, a geophysicist known for catching the kind of details everyone else overlooked. The numbers were too clean. Natural tremors produced messy spikes, broken patterns, or scattered frequencies. But this signal, it rose and fell like a controlled breath. Every 23 minutes, the same vibration rippled upward through the bedrock, subtle enough to miss, but precise enough to raise alarms. Serrano listened to the audio translation of the signal, a low hum that almost sounded mechanical. Not man-made, not today, but engineered. Yet nothing on the surface of that region could account for it. No machinery, no settlements, not even old mining sites. According to official records, the plateau had never been developed in any way. The deeper she dug, the stranger it became. Secondary scans revealed something impossible, a perfectly curved void beneath the plateau, shaped like a buried dome larger than a stadium. Its walls reflected seismic waves as if polished, something you only see in intentionally designed spaces. The void wasn't natural collapse, it wasn't erosion, it was symmetrical, mathematically so. Even stranger, the pulse wasn't random. It radiated outward in a spiral pattern, the same structure found in certain ancient calendars and star charts across multiple civilizations. Serrano couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't looking at geology, she was looking at intent. She requested more scans. They failed. Instruments overheated. Drones lost their gyroscopes mid-flight. The plateau's distortion field, whatever it caused it, grew worse the closer they tried to look. That was when Alina made her decision. If the Earth was hiding a chamber, something that breathed every 23 minutes like a sleeping titan, then the only way to understand it was to go in person. Funding arrived within weeks. Survival experts, botanists, cartographers, and signal analysts formed a team built for one purpose: reach the plateau, cut through the distortion zone. The team reached the plateau on the fourth morning, expecting hard soil and stable ground. Instead, they stepped into something that looked ordinary, but behaved like nothing they'd ever seen. Each footprint lasted only seconds before collapsing inward and smoothing over, as if the earth had a slow, deliberate way of erasing their presence. Even heavy gear left almost no trace. It felt like the ground didn't want a record of them being there. Serrano crouched and sifted the soil through her fingers. It wasn't loose sand or soft clay. It was packed earth with a texture closer to powdered stone, yet it settled like liquid the moment she touched it. Botanists noticed the plants nearby were growing in mirrored pairs. Each leaf, each stem,
them, almost genetically identical to its twin. Nature doesn't make perfect copies, but something here did. That was the first hint. The second came from above. A drone sweep showed geometric shadows beneath the topsoil, wide triangles, sweeping arcs, and corridors that ran straighter than any natural fault line. It looked like someone had carved an entire blueprint into the bedrock, then buried it under centuries of growth. The design stretched for kilometers, repeating patterns that suggested purpose, not accident. But the strangest discovery came when the team moved deeper across the plateau. The mirrored plant patterns grew denser, aligning into subtle paths as though the vegetation had been shaped by something beneath it. When they followed these natural lanes, the trees shifted in gentle curves, converging toward a sheer cliff face that none of their maps had recorded. The cliff didn't look like a natural formation. Its surface was too smooth, too uniform, almost polished. At first glance, it seemed like an unbroken wall of stone. But as they approached, the echo of the plateau's pulse grew stronger, vibrating faintly beneath their boots. Then Serrano saw it, a single, razor-thin fault running horizontally across the cliff for nearly 40 meters, a seam where no seam should exist. The patterns in the soil had led them straight to it, as if the plateau itself had been designed to funnel them toward this exact spot. And just beyond that seamless stone lay the answer to the pulse, the wall that didn't just stand there, it breathed. Up close, the cliff felt nothing like rock. It was cold, yes, but too smooth, too flawless, as if centuries of weather had never touched it. Serrano laid her palm against the surface and felt a faint warmth pulse beneath it, steady and slow, matching the rhythm they detected from miles away. The wall wasn't just vibrating, it was exhaling heat in soft waves, like a sleeping creature buried under layers of stone. Thermal cameras confirmed what her skin already sensed. Every 23 minutes, a subtle bloom of warmth spread across the cliff's center, then vanished. The pattern was impossibly precise, rising and falling with the accuracy of a metronome. Whatever was behind the wall was generating heat, but not enough to break through, just enough to leave a ghost of its presence. Animals sensed it too. Small mammals that usually darted through the underbrush stopped several meters away, circling restlessly but never crossing an invisible boundary around the cliff. Even insects changed their flight paths, avoiding the stone as if it radiated a silent warning. When Serrano pressed her ear to the surface, a low hum whispered through the mineral. Not wind, not water, it was organized. Layered tones that rose and fell in a pattern too complex to be random. Her team recorded the frequency, but the playback was unsettling. It sounded like dozens of voices murmuring from inside a massive chamber, their echoes stretched thin by time. As the team examined the wall, one detail stood out. That razor-thin seam running across the face wasn't a crack. It was a boundary, a line where two surfaces met so perfectly that only changes in light revealed it. The seam extended deeper into the stone than any natural fissure would do. It was a door without hinges, built with a precision their tools struggled to measure. They tested different sections, tapping gently to detect hollow spaces. Every part of the wall responded with the same dull resonance, except one. A single patch near the center gave off a sharp metallic note, as if something thin and brittle lay just beneath the surface. Serrano nodded, and the team brought out micro drills designed to shave through millimeters of material without causing structural collapse. The moment the drill touched the wall, their radios erupted in static. Compass needles spun. Even their heartbeat sensors glitched as if fighting against interference rising from inside the stone. But they didn't stop. The drill pierced the outer layer, and a thin crack formed across the surface, followed by a sudden release of warm metallic air that rushed past them like a sigh escaping after centuries of silence. The smell was sharp and earthy, tinged with something ancient they couldn't name. When the dust settled, the seam was no longer sealed. A dark gap opened just wide enough for a beam of light to slip through, revealing the first glimpse of the void behind it. The cliff wasn't... The moment they stepped through the opening, the air changed. It was warmer, heavier, carrying a faint metallic taste that clung to the back of the throat. Their lights cut through a curtain of drifting dust, revealing a corridor far too smooth and symmetrical to be natural. The walls curved upward in a perfect arc, merging at a ceiling polished like volcanic glass. No tool marks, no erosion, just seamless stone shaped with a precision that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. But the real shock came when the team tried to speak. A whisper didn't fade. It stretched, repeating itself softly, echoing not from behind, but from the sides, the ceiling, even the floor. Every sound bounced in a closed loop, circling endlessly until it dissolved. Serrano's voice hovered around them like a soft chorus, repeating fragments of her words long after she'd stopped talking. Their footsteps made no sound at all. It was as if the hall had been engineered to mute movement but preserve speech, turning every conversation into an echo that refused to die. Along the walls stood tall stone slabs covered with symbols carved with astonishing accuracy. Each slab carried a pattern that repeated at precise intervals, almost like a rhythmic code. The symbols weren't letters or pictographs. They resembled mathematical sequences, spirals, mirrored numbers, and grid-like arrangements that pulsed when light hit them at certain angles. One of the analysts noticed something chilling. Many of the symbols matched the vibration pattern of the 23-minute pulse. The chamber wasn't just echoing sound, it was responding to it. The corridor narrowed into a circular room that felt unnaturally bright despite the lack of any visible light source. When Serrano shined her lamp upward, she realized why. The entire dome overhead had been carved with a material that refracted light inwards, bending every beam toward the center of the room. And at the center stood a pillar, a single monolith rising from the floor, its surface covered in fine layers of dust. When Serrano brushed her hand across it, the dust fell away to reveal lines that glimmered faintly, thin metallic grooves forming a map neither of the land nor the chamber. It was a star map, but not a modern one. The constellations were twisted, slightly offset, their positions matching the sky as it appeared 13,000 years ago. And at the bottom of the carving, a series of descending streaks crossed the heavens, long arcs reaching toward a horizon etched with flames, a cosmic event recorded by hands older than history. The team exchanged a silent glance. If people had carved this, then the civilization responsible wasn't merely advanced, it had observed the stars with a precision equal to early astronomers thousands of years before such knowledge should have existed. But the pillar wasn't the end of the corridor. Directly behind it, hidden beneath layers of mineral dust, Serrano found a second symbol, a downward pointing arc accompanied by a cluster of dots arranged in a spiral. A path, a direction, a warning, and the final engraving below it sent a chill through the group. A perfect circle representing something falling from the sky toward a marked location on the ground, the same plateau they were standing on. Whatever these people witnessed, whatever they built this chamber to remember, started far above the earth, and the next room would show exactly what happened when the sky itself turned against them. The star map raised questions none of them were ready to answer, but the next chamber delivered something even more unsettling. The hallway sloped downward like a buried ramp, its walls coated in a faint charcoal residue that flaked off in thin black streaks. It wasn't soot from torches. It was older, denser, the kind produced only when material is scorched at temperatures far beyond anything a simple fire could create. When the team reached the bottom, their lights washed over a massive mural carved directly into the stone. At first, it looked abstract, full of jagged lines and spiraling shapes, but as Serrano stepped closer, the image sharpened into a scene frozen in perfect detail. People standing on a plain beneath an open sky, animals fleeing in chaotic arcs, and above them, streaks of fire cutting across the heavens, each one etched so deeply into the stone that the grooves felt sharp under her fingertips. This wasn't mythology, it was eyewitness memory, a recording of something these people had seen with their own eyes. They collected charcoal samples from the mural's base. When analyzed on site, the readings were unmistakable. Microspherules, tiny beads of melted silica formed only during extreme heat events, the same kind found in geological layers linked to ancient cosmic impacts, the same kind associated with a catastrophic environmental collapse roughly 12 to 13,000 years ago. The mural wasn't symbolic, it was historical. More carvings lined the chamber, showing the world transforming in violent stages. Forests burning, rivers boiling, clouds choked with ash, and then a final scene, a group of people descending underground, leaving behind a landscape swallowed in smoke. Serrano's flashlight moved across the last panel. It depicted a structure, circular, tiered, and almost identical to the plateau they had just crossed. A sanctuary built beneath the earth, preserved for anyone who might one day find it. The implication was clear. These ancient builders weren't simply recording a catastrophe, they were preparing for the next one. When the team scraped sediment from the mural's base, the lab results deepened the mystery. The soil contained traces of iridium, a rare element more common in meteorites than on Earth. It also held pollen from plants that no no longer exist anywhere in the Amazon, proof that the region had once been a dry savanna, not a rainforest. The entire ecosystem had changed in the wake of whatever event the murals described. The carvings were a timeline of destruction and renewal, laid out like a prophecy. It wasn't just a disaster they'd survived, it was a cycle they believed would return. And the deeper the team moved into the structure, the more it felt like the builders had left behind not just memories, but
what Serrano's team uncovered beneath the plateau wasn't just a forgotten refuge or a buried monument, it was a message carved in stone, waiting for the world to catch up. Every chamber told the same story from a different angle. A sky that once tore itself apart, a civilization that refused to vanish quietly, and a warning meant for anyone who might face the same fate. The sealed halls weren't built out of fear, they were built out of memory, a reminder that the world has broken before, and that it could break again. If a culture 13,000 years older than recorded history believed disaster moved in cycles, then the real question isn't what happened to them, it's whether their message reached us in time. What do you